Hey, North, Mr. Yergler here. Now that we've talked about Lewis dot structures, we need to go into what's called resonance, and with that comes formal charge. Let's get started. Start by drawing all the possible Lewis structures you can think of for NO3 minus. Remember that because that minus, we need to add one more electron. So go ahead and pause the video and come up with as many Lewis structures as you can. All right, when you get all of these Lewis structures written, you find that there's three different possibilities, because there's three different places you can put that double bond. Right? When you go around and use up all of your electrons, you actually come up short, and so you have to borrow a pair to make a double bond on the central atom nitrogen. Research tells us that, and experimental data tells us that it's not really the case that one of the bonds is shorter and stronger than the other two. Right? They're actually all three identical in length and strength. Whereas if one of them was a double bond, then you would think that it would be the stronger stronger than the other two. But that's actually not the case. This led us to this idea of resonance. Whenever you have multiple possibilities of drawing the Lewis structures, it's actually all of those possibilities that are present in real life. And so it's not the case that one of the bonds is double and the other ones are single. It's that they're all kind of 1 1/3 bonds. Because they're all the same. So you can kind of think of it as the double bond is kind of oscillating. It's kind of jumping around from oxygen to oxygen. In reality, I don't know if that's really what's the best way of describing what's going on. It's maybe more accurate to say that each nitrogen to oxygen bond is like 1 1/3 of a bond. So whenever we get more than one valid structure, as long as they're obeying the octet, then we draw the resonance. And in the resonance structure, it's the electron placement that's changing. It's not the arrangement of atoms. So you don't want to move around different atoms. You're just moving around essentially where double bonds are. And this is kind of a side note. In Lewis structures, we kind of represent electrons as very static and localized, like they're fixed and they're kind of tied to a particular atom. In reality, these electron clouds the electrons are what we call delocalized. They're kind of all over the place. They're able to move throughout the molecule. They're not in any fixed position. But the Lewis dot structures and the resonance structures kind of help us to describe what's going on. All right, so pause the video and come up with as many Lewis structures as you can for N2O4. All right, you may have gotten that there was 34 electrons, and so when you kind of lay it out, you end up with this kind of structure. But when you put in all the electrons, you end up with some double bonds. And you may have thought that there's 4 different possibilities, but there's actually only 2, because picture this one right here. If your double bonds are up here and your single bonds are at the bottom, you may think that having the double bonds at the bottom is also a resonance structure. But if you think about it, this is a 3-dimensional object. If you just flip it over, then now you have the double bonds on the bottom. And so it's really the exact same structure, it's just rotated. And so there's really just 2 different structures. When we draw Lewis structures and resonance structures, it's possible that they're not equivalent. And the way we calculate, or the way we figure out if a resonance structure is equivalent, aka possible or likely, is by using what's called formal charge. The lowest energy is preferable in formal charge. So if all of your values are as close to 0 as possible, that's ideal. If there's any negative charge, it's going to reside on the most electronegative atom, because the electronegative atom is going to pull and draw the electrons to itself. A couple different ways that do this. Some textbooks will kind of give you a formula like this. I think it's a little bit more straightforward to just say, figure out the number of valence electrons for the atom, subtract the number of non-bonded electrons, and then also subtract the number of bonds on that atom. It helps to go through some examples. So carbon dioxide, what's the formal charge of each of these atoms? On the carbon normally has 4 valence electrons. So start with 4, so 4 valence electrons, minus the number of non-bonded electrons, that would be 0, because there are 0 non-bonded electrons, minus the number of bonds. It has 4 bonds on it, and so it has a formal charge of 0. It's 4 minus 0 minus 4, right? What about oxygen? Oxygen normally has 6 valence electrons. The non-bonded electrons, there's 4 of them, so 6 minus 4 is 2. Minus the 2 bonds also gets that one to 0. So the formal charge of carbon and oxygen, and in this case both oxygens, is 0. So let's look at another example. Lone pairs of electrons around an atom can only belong to that atom, so that kind of some rules around resonance. With shared pairs, we can kind of think of one of the electrons being tied to one atom and the other being tied to the second atom. Now let's look at these sulfate ions. So we'll do some formal charges. Let's start with these double bonded oxygens. Just like in the carbon dioxide, oxygen has 6 valence electrons, minus 4 non-bonding electrons, so now 2, minus 2 bonds, is 0, right? So this oxygen is 0. This is set up the exact same way, so this one's also 0. This oxygen, 6 valence electrons still, minus 6 non-bonded electrons, so that now we're at 0, minus 1 bond is going to be negative 1, right? So both of these oxygens are going to be the same. Now the sulfur. Sulfur normally has 6 valence electrons, minus 0 non-bonded electrons, minus 6 bonds. So the sulfur has a formal charge of 0. Now if we jump over here, we actually already did all these oxygens. They are all negative 1, right? This is set up the same way. So these are all negative 1. The sulfur, though, is different. The sulfur has 6 valence electrons, 0 non-bonding electrons, so minus 0, 6 minus 0, and number of bonds is 4. So 6 minus 4 would be 2. So the sulfur in this case has a formal charge of 2. So what's the better structure? This one is. Because in this one, all the formal charges are as close to 0 as possible, and any negatives are on the more electronegative atoms, which is the oxygen in this case. So in general, structures that obey the octet are the best structures. After that, though, if you have multiple good structures that follow the octet, then we would use formal charge to figure out what the best structure is. Okay, it might be the case that there's multiple good structures, in which case we have resonance. Now, one other thing that we want to talk about is bond order. Bond order is just a fancy term for basically the number of bonds that something has. So a single bond has a bond order of 1, a double bond has a bond order of 2, and a triple bond has a bond order of 3. The higher the bond order, the stronger the bond, because the bond is actually shorter. A double bond is actually shorter. The atoms are closer to each other because more electron clouds are being shared, and so that kind of draws the atoms a little bit closer to each other, and the closer they get to each other, the harder it is to remove them, so the stronger the bond. So let's look at some examples here. What's the bond order of this first one? 1, because you have all single bonds. O2 has a bond order of 2, and then nitrogen would have a bond order of 3. What about when you have a couple double bonds but a couple single bonds? But you're basically taking an average, so I would call this a bond order of 1.5. Each electron domain on the sulfur averages out to 1.5 bonds, because you have 2 doubles and 2 singles. So that's formal charge. Again, it's only used to determine if a resonance structure is a valid one after we've already established that it is good on the octet rule. And then bond order is simply just basically how many bonds there are on the central atom. If you have any questions, as always, write those down, bring them up in class, and we'll get some practice there. All right, this is Mr. Yergler signing out.